Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Discuss Detroit. I'm Jeanette Pierce with the Detroit Experience Factory and City Institute. I'm going to be your host today, as always. And today we are joined by a longtime colleague, Bob Gregory, who is the Chief Planning and Public Spaces Director, Officer for the Downtown Detroit Partnership, otherwise known as the DDP. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks, Jeanette. It's glad to be here, and it's glad to see you again as usual. And we've been together and known each other for almost over 15 years, I think.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Back to Inside Detroit Days, which was the original
Yeah,
name of
yeah.
the org. And that's launched in January of 2006, which I can't believe it's been 15 years. And it's been amazing to work with the park and in so many different ways over that time. And the park is one of my, Campus Martius Park, I should say, is one of my favorite places in the city. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be where you are today?
Hmm. So in a nutshell, I'm a Detroiter through and through, born in Detroit, raised in Detroit, went to a high school in Detroit in Midtown at I-94 and Woodward there, it's Legion High School, which was an all-boys Catholic school with the likes of University of Detroit and Catholic Central, et cetera. And went to Michigan State, got my degrees in urban economics and urban planning, and found my way back to Detroit and have been working in the greater downtown. I worked for General Motors for 20 years in their old news center headquarters doing urban development, but a lot of corporate work as well. And so that goes back to the late 1970s. And so I found my way down to downtown and Marches in 1999, late 99. So and working downtown on campus Marches and DVP since then.
Wow. Well, and shout out to the all boys Catholic school. My family went to Notre Dame, and I went to Regina, so that's a great community. And definitely go green.
Yeah, go away.
I'm green by marriage with my husband being a Michigan State grad, and but I think it's amazing to. I mean, was it a new program, the urban planning? At Michigan State now, everyone I feel like is all about urban planning degrees at every university, but that's got to have been a
No,
relatively
they've had urban planning for quite a while. University of Michigan was well known as well. And
okay.
but my undergrad was in James Madison College, which had urban economics at the time.
Got
They
it.
don't have it today, but it really gave me a lot of the background in terms of the urban development and urban economics. So
That's
it's
so
been
cool.
helpful my whole life. Yeah.
So then so General Motors, so obviously it's Detroit. So, the
Yeah.
joke is you might be from Detroit if half your family works for the auto industry. And so
I had
that,
nothing to do with cars, though. I mean, I
right.
worked coming out of college. I worked for the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, my first job, and actually got involved in doing a major housing single-family home rehabilitation program in Northwest Detroit, taking abandoned homes and rehabbing them, reselling them. And then when General Motors was looking at revitalizing the area around their old headquarters, new center, the residential neighborhood, they were looking for somebody who had that kind of experience, and I did. So I joined them to really lead the effort on an 18 square block revitalization effort north of West Grand Boulevard up to Virginia Park, and I did that almost into the early 90s. Actually. So
Wow.
it was a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
all kinds of activities up there.
Yeah. And News Center, CDC too, and the Taste Fest, that was something
Yeah, that was
that was
something
going
I
on.
worked on. We helped invent that. New Center Park was the first public space that I was involved in creating, and we built that and expanded it 2 times to what it is today. And so, and all the public spaces on West Grand Boulevard, the medians, the islands, and the plazas in front of the Fisher Building, GM Building, New Center One, all of that was activity I worked on back in the 80s and 90s.
That's great. And people, we take things for granted. I mean, that's like good design, right? And public
Yeah,
space, I think if you don't notice it unless it's not there, right? And then you're like,
yeah.
oh wait, this is the amount of green space is such an important part of a city, obviously. And that has been, and I don't know if any one other person has had such an impact on our public space in the city and downtown specifically than you have probably in your long career. So thank you already for everything that you've done. So talk to us a little bit about Campus Martius. So when do you get the call? Like, what's the first idea? Where does it begin, this inkling of what will become Campus Martius?
Well, I got the call in like, I can't remember now, November, December of 1999. And I was doing some consulting in Midtown actually at the time. I left GM And they said, we have, and yet the picture you got to remember, downtown Detroit in the 1990s was almost totally empty. All buildings were all empty out, millions of square feet, over 60 some buildings were completely empty north of Michigan Ave, north of 4th Street. And there was a plan for Campus Martius that was developed in 1997 by the Greater Downtown Partnership. And it had popped a green dot on a map in the middle of Woodward Avenue and said, let's put a new park there. And let's surround the new park with these 15-story buildings on the old Hudson site, the old Crowley's department store site, the old Kernblock site, the Kennedy Square. Let's redevelop that space there and make this be the center of a revitalized downtown. And then all the other buildings, let's convert them to residential. So that was the plan in 1997. And it sat kind of around for a couple of years in 1999. And then when Detroit was getting ready for their 300th birthday celebration in 2001, they formed Detroit 300 Inc. And Edsel Ford II was the chairman of that, and playing a big party on the river, right, with Stevie Wonder and everything else.
Yeah, I was there. It was so fun.
Yeah. But they wanted to leave a legacy gift to the city of something of a major way. And so I got brought on as a consultant to actually help them figure out what should that gift be. And we scoured all the list of 25 projects from the riverfront to Eastern Market to Campus Martius to you name it. And we picked Campus Martius as a team that we could take this project on and see if we can create a great public space. And Mayor Archer at the time then bought into that. And him and Edsel, came together and said, let's do this. And Dennis Archer said, let's create the best public space in the world. And that's what we set about doing.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the 2001 with that 300th birthday was a catalyst for a few different things, right? We've talked with the riverfront before. I mean, you guys didn't choose it in that group, but it obviously, I think, all the different people, it really brought so many people to the table that made these projects possible, right? I mean, you had the for-profit, the nonprofit, the city, all on the same page. I think, because things had been talked about, like you said, whether it's the riverfront for 20 years or a Central Park like this for a handful of years, but the fact that everyone was at the table was the time to get it done.
No, that's a good point, Jeanette, because it really, at that time, it took a consensus of everybody to come around to a vision. And so we had Dennis Archer set up a task force of almost 30 people, civic leaders, business, government, some residents, and we managed the task force working with myself and at that time Gloria Robinson from the city mayor's office. We created a vision for Campus Martius Park. We created the program, the design, and the consensus of that group representing the city really bought into all of it. And that once we got the vision created to make it a great public space that would help transform downtown Detroit, both economically and socially, then we were able to raise the money, get the design done, and then actually build it. And here we are 16 years later, 17 years later, and it's almost like it's still brand new. It still is doing what it's supposed to do,
Right. And it's continuing
being there every day for Detroiters.
Yeah, grow and change and add pieces too as well. Then next step, so let's really quick, I'm going to show folks what it looked like back then. So that one of the things, we talk about Campus Martius a lot on our tours. It's obviously where the point of origin is for the entire city of Detroit, where 8 Mile Road is 8 miles from. I mean, and it is this amazing public space. I studied abroad in Spain in college and, fell in love with the public square, right? And sitting and reading a book in a park and by a fountain. And I said, I want Spain, but I want it in Detroit. And people laughed at me. But I moved downtown in 2003. And then you guys were nice enough to build me a park, like right then, and that opened just the
everything you
next year.
wanted. Yeah.
Right. So I do remember that first, that summer of 03, though. So before Campus Martius is fully completed, I did go and take a blanket and sit in Grand Circus Park and read a book and try to get a little bit of sun. And it was an interesting experience, for sure at that time. So let's show folks, and this is one of the cool things about doing things virtually here, is that we can both Campus Martius, right? It's right here in the center of town for those that are not familiar. And the center of the city, the spokes of the wheel all come out from it. And you've seen probably the pretty pictures folks have, there's the beautiful ice skating rink in the winter, which I always love the fact you shared with me that it's actually bigger than Rockefeller Center's ice skating rink, even
Right.
though it's not, it seems not huge, but it's bigger than New York. And the tree lighting. And so that was actually one of the first, the first major event, right? In '04, was that the first tree lighting, Bob?
Yeah, obviously, we've been lighting Christmas trees in Detroit for over 100 years, but this was the first one. We opened the park in November of 2004, and we opened it with the tree lighting event for the city. And so a 60-foot tree on a beautiful fountain, which I think is unique in the world, having your Christmas tree, a big, gigantic Christmas tree on top of
60 feet
actually
tall
running,
normally. Yeah.
yeah, running on a fountain in the middle of winter. So it's that was the whole setting we originally created, and again with the help of DTE in the very beginning, since they were the sponsor of that tree ever since we opened the park, which is great.
Well, I like to say that we don't, stop having fun when it gets cold. We just bundle up a little, and whether that's ice skating or the tree lighting, which has become one of the biggest events of the year,
Right.
But certainly the beautiful green space as well. And I'm guessing most folks who are watching have been to Campus Martius, and if you haven't been lately, you definitely got to check it out. But this is the photo that I think is so important to show people. So this is what you're talking about in 1999, when they said, not only, let's put or you guys said, let's put a public space here, but you have to reroute 5 streets, right? This wasn't just,
Right.
So interestingly enough, like, did you think about, because I don't remember this, this is where One Campus Martius is today, and where CompuWare
Right.
was called the CompuWare building, but wasn't very activated as a space, obviously.
No.
But was there
No,
some
not at
thought
all.
about putting the park here?
No, because the original plan, again, I was not, when they created the original cartoon
Yeah.
sketch of a plan back in 1997, they saw that as a major development site.
Right.
That was the old Kearns development, Kearns department store, as well as part of the Crowley's department store.
Right. And then
in the back
Hudson,
on
of
the
course,
road.
had just gotten
Hudson's right
blown up
there.
the year
So,
before, or this picture.
right. Right. So that was meant to be a development site, and we approached a little bit into that site with the park. But again, this is 1999. The Comerica Park opened that year, I think, and that
Yeah,
was all that was downtown. Everything else in this picture is empty for the
right.
most part, building wise.
Comerica Park, which you can see in the distance, their first game was spring of 2000.
2000. Okay, we're just getting ready to
So
open.
they weren't even up and running yet. Yeah, I mean, you have, again, the David Whitney, that's the Metropolitan, which actually just got redone, or the Wurlitzer,
Right.
the Metropolitan.
The 1001 building right there on the corner, that was completely empty, not a soul in that building. We actually had our project office in the building. We were the only tenants in that building back in 2000 to 2003 there. So it was a downtown. This picture is perfect because it was basically empty south of 4th Street.
Well, and I worked,
living, working hardly at all.
I had my first internship at United Way in the summer of 2000.
Yeah, it was up in Capitol Park.
Yeah, in Capitol Park in the summer of 2000. And I do, I felt like the big city girl, like working in the city. And I would, and this, Kennedy Square, where obviously One Kennedy Square is today, and was so named because, President Kennedy JFK spoke here. And I always think it's interesting because they used to actually, most presidential candidates would kick off, would be here for Labor Day, for the Labor Day parade.
Right.
And so this was like a little amphitheater. I call it, it was a public space, but again, very underutilized and very in that 70s, 60s, 70s.
Bad design.
All concrete, I mean, I think I might have sat and, watched some music here at lunch one day. But yeah,
it was a horrible design back in the 60s. That's where our former city hall for Detroit stood originally, and it was torn down in the early 50s.
And then you had
so that all got demolished and
not pedestrian friendly, let's put it that way, right? And this is what it looked like, speaking of historically.
Not friendly for anybody.
Yeah. So this is where One Campus Martius is today. This is the Merrill Palmer Fountain, which still exists, but it's in Palmer Park now, right?
Right, correct. Yeah.
And then obviously everything in this building is no longer, or in this picture is no longer there, except the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, which, you know, is here in 1999 and also here in 2011. And this picture is actually of my wedding. So I love Campus Martius so much. I got married here, which is almost 10 years, Bob. It'll be 10 years in September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel
Actually,
that long, Jeanette, honestly.
I know, you're telling me. And 3 kids, well, but I had the 3 kids all at once. I have 2-year-old triplets.
Yeah.
So, but we'll have to talk because I actually think I want to do a 10-year, you know, pay to get some bands back on stage and do a 10-year
Yeah.
thing that could be really great because we did it as a public festival and it was awesome. And work
Well,
with
we
you guys.
talk about the impact of campus.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. We had you can see us here right by the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. I'm just talking a little bit about my wedding while we lost you for a second there, but so yeah, what were you saying? The impact of Campus Martius, right? Anyway, so we had hundreds of people. We invited the entire city and got married right by the fountain. And you can see the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, which again has been there since 1872, is absolutely amazing. And it is just this amazing public square. So let's look at, let's actually go to the map really quick. And Bob is just having a little technical difficulty, so we'll get back to him in just 1 second. But there is tons to show of Campus Martius here. So if you've ever wondered where 8 Mile Road is 8 miles from, the answer is smack dab in the middle of Campus Martius. And this is the point of origin for the entire city of Detroit. And so the really quick Detroit history, right? 1701, French guy by the name of Cadillac arrives here, though indigenous people had been here for thousands of years in Michigan, 10,000 years is the estimate. And then the Europeans didn't come until 1701. And then the British take over in 1760, and the Americans in 1796. And then a guy named Augustus Woodward puts this circle in the ground. Well, he puts the stake in the ground after the Great Fire of 1805. And we all, and then everything is measured out from there. So since 1806 is what is actually marked on this point of origin. And they put this beautiful marker in the park when it opened in 2004 because they didn't know exactly where it was going to be or exactly where that point of origin was, somewhere in that vicinity, because you saw the picture where it had all of the just concrete everywhere. So it is an amazing part of Campus Martius is this point of origin. So where is 8 Mile Road 8 miles from? The answer is smack dab in the middle of Campus Martius, and 8 miles due north is actually at 8 Mile and DeQuinder, where all 3 counties come together. So so the impact of Campus Martius has been huge since the very beginning, and it continues to be, right, Bob?
It certainly does. Sorry for the little pause in my internet connection here, but
okay, I can always talk about Campus Martius.
I know you can. Thank God you can. But as I was saying, I mean, we get over 3 million people a year that visit Campus Martius, and it just has impacted so many people's lives that come and visit it every day, to the events, the programs, to the engagements, the weddings, graduations, and again, it really, you know, a day doesn't go by on any major television station in Detroit that you don't see a live shot of Campus Martius. So, you know, again, I like to say, you know, we're a metropolitan area of almost 5 million people. Whether you've been to Campus Martius or can't get to it, or haven't been to it in a while, just the fact that you know it's there, you know, as a Detroiter, that you know that the beautiful public space that anchors our downtown, that makes you feel good. So it's really an image builder for the city internationally, as people know about Campus Martius. Right.
Absolutely. Well, and it's won so many awards. What, you know, tell me about some of the awards it's won.
Well, the ones, you know, we've won all kinds of them. We just recently would name one of the top 10 spaces, but the USA Today Reader's Choice spaces, public squares as well. numerous public square awards. We won the Urban Land Institute, which is the most prestigious, development group internationally. We won their first ever Best Public Space in the Country award. So in 2010. And interesting, I like to tell that story is because that was in 2010. That was before Dan Gilbert and his whole group came to downtown. So ever since they've come down, development's been on steroids, obviously. It's even got so much better. But we won that a lot of best of awards back before the Quicken Loans family companies came downtown, which is a significant kind of an award.
Yeah, well, and one part of that was that it was one of the most transformative spaces. I think that
Right.
that's also like there's a lot of investment in public spaces now, and you can take a cool a park or a green space and then put a lot of energy into it. But as we saw in that before picture, this was a literal and figurative game changer. So how
Right.
I mean, we don't want, I know we could go on forever, but I want a little bit on how it came to fruition. So 1999, you come in, you got the decisions made, and then poof, it just happened with it was super easy, right?
No, not really. I mean, we had to, and again, people ask me this question. I mean, did people think you could do it? For people, was it easy to get done? And getting the consensus, I think, was easier than I thought, but coming up with the right ideas and the vision. Going back to 2000, in the United States, there weren't many spaces like this around that you could use as examples. There was Rockefeller Center, there was Bryant Park in New York, a couple other ones. Millennium Park in Chicago was just starting to get built or planned design as well. So we had to look to Europe, we had to look to all these other different places for the great public squares I think you mentioned earlier. And so it was really, the toughest part was coming up with the right vision that we could actually have a space that you could do all the things that it does, right? Year round, 365, winter, summer, have the fountains, have the restaurants, cafes, the green lawns, the skating rink, and so we almost kind of picked the best pieces of the public squares and parks across the world, brought them to Detroit in a design sense, but made the place authentically Detroit. And it was hard in the very beginning to take that vision, put it into renderings, put it into a booklet, and then go around and convince people they ought to invest $1 million, $2 million. It's all privately raised money. And I really got to give credit to Etzel Ford, who was my boss for 10 years as a chairman of this group, Peter Karmanos and Denise Starr at the time at CompuWare, and Mayor Archer. I mean, they helped us raise the money. We had to convince everybody to invest dollars into it, that it actually would make a difference. People said, well, just build a green space and call it a day.
Right.
It's more than
And
that.
that there were a lot of, naysayers. I mean, I just,
Right.
like what, a park in the middle of
Right.
downtown Detroit? Like
Right.
again, if you look at that previous picture, there's no pedestrians.
Right.
Well, this is a great example. If you build it, they will come, right? Because
exactly.
was there no pedestrians because the people didn't want to walk anywhere, or was there nothing to walk to? There was no draw and space, right? So
Right, totally. I said, a lot of downtown was empty, but the people that were downtown, some of the bankers and some of the lawyers and folks, once we built the park and opened up, guess what? They came out, like you said. They came out to the space. We've had the music. You could bring their lunch there, and all of a sudden, the people we build it, they will come.
Well, and it helps all the small businesses as well. I mean, because this is why we started doing our tours, right? Even back then, is people worked downtown, and I use quotation marks. It's not that they didn't work downtown, but you drove in, you parked, you went to your building, you ate at the subway in your building, and then you went home. And so very few people really experienced downtown. And again, there wasn't tons to experience, but even once there started to be, it was changing the mentality for people, getting them to see the walkability and learn about the assets. Because there were 60,000, 70,000 people working downtown still. Even at that low point.
Yeah, the low point was probably in the mid 50s, like 55,000 people, from the high point of 150,000 people.
Right.
And so when we opened the park, there was 55, maybe 60,000 people working downtown. And so today there's some closer to 90,000 people working downtown. The visitorships with all the stadiums all being downtown, all the restaurants, all the bars, all the entertainment, all of that it's totally changed.
And the mindset, right? Again, I think you and I, that's what we were, get out of your office, come see the park, look, you can walk, look, there are these great small businesses. And, social media, I think, has been probably one of the best things for a lot of what we have in downtown, right? Because before the small business or even the park, now people post those awesome photos in the beach,
Right.
and it isn't just actual word of mouth. It actually, spreads out far and wide. And I think that's been a big boost, which, happened to coincide too when Dan Gilbert and folks started coming down. We started to get an uptick in social media and things like that. So
Totally. It really drives people to come downtown today, come to the city of Detroit for sure. It's a big
well,
player.
and one thing I just want to make sure everyone knows that the diversity of programming that you guys have at Campus Martius Park and the other downtown parks, but we're obviously
Yeah.
focusing on Campus Martius today. But some people might come for the ice skating rink, but not realize that there's movies in the park, that there's Oktoberfest, that you have
Right.
Cadillac Square adjacent there as well, and has the food truck rallies and the Christmas shops. And I mean, there is
We have
just
Urban Beach.
yeah, the beach, I mean,
The
I like
beach
to
you
say
can't.
the kids, it's great for kids playing during
Yeah.
the day and
Right.
grown-ups playing at night.
Right. Exactly.
It's
No,
great.
the diversity of programming we do, to your point, in Campus Martius, Cadillac Square, and the other four spaces we have, Beacon Park, Capitol Park, Grand Circus, and now the Esplanade. We're probably the most diverse programming group in the country in terms of public spaces. There's something for everybody, and almost all of it is free as well too, and it's all year round.
Yeah.
So,
Free, and that's where, Detroiters, it's such, and it's the city's main gathering place, and
mhm.
it
Right.
has something for everybody, basketball and Zumba and,
Right.
and beer. I mean, it really is
It's,
awesome.
and the thing I like about Jeanette so much, it's not just a place for if you happen to work downtown or live downtown, it's for everybody, and everybody comes.
Yeah.
People come from the neighborhoods of the city of Detroit. They come from the suburbs. They come from Japan. They come from everywhere. You'll see so many. You'll see folks coming from Dearborn. You'll see the Muslims and Arabs coming from. Oh, doesn't matter. Everybody's mixing together in a very positive way.
And that's really one of the biggest impacts of public spaces in
Yeah.
general. And that's why it's amazing. We'll have to have you back on to talk about the other parks, because that each of them have such great stories. And like you said, great programming.
Yeah.
But Campus Martius is certainly the one of the city's greatest jewels. So what can people do? What's your call to action? What do you want them? They're all psyched about hearing from you. And what do you want them to do?
Well, two things I want them to do. I want them, if they haven't been to downtown in a while, even with the pandemic all going on, come downtown. We're open. It's coming into spring. The flowers will be beautiful. The programming will start. Go to downtowndetroitparks.com. And you can go to our Facebook and Instagram pages as well. But downtowndetroitparks.com, everything is there in terms of events. And we actually, we've got some funding opportunities for you as well to help support the parks. We are 100% privately funded in terms of what we do. We rely on funds from our corporate sponsors and donations. And so if you're interested in helping support downtown Detroit parks, there's an opportunity. You can go on that website as well and find the button to do that as well. So
Awesome. And I will add to, share your photos,
right,
bring a friend, right? If you
right.
love it, you don't assume that everyone knows or everyone's been. So the domino effect of actually spreading the word about these great assets that we have in Detroit is really powerful. So I will
And
put that out
particularly,
there too.
particularly coming out of the pandemic, I think we all want to get back to some sense of normalcy. We want our downtown to come back like it was before. People living, working, playing downtown, and so these public spaces are even more important today in Detroit and across the world because they are open air. They're places you can go and gather still. And we didn't stop any programming last year in 2020, and we're going to continue to do it this year in a very safe way. But we want people to come back to our cities. They will come back.
Absolutely. Well, and the pandemic showed, one of the things that it did show was the absolute importance and imperative of public spaces. And we are so lucky in Detroit to have so many great public spaces around the downtown and around the city. So
Absolutely.
thanks so much, Bob. We'll
Yeah.
definitely chat again. Again, there's so much to talk about, but I appreciate your time and I appreciate everything you've done for the city and especially for creating my very favorite park in Detroit.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, and I'm happy to come back too as well. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon.